many women are not empire builders, but women would be interested in maybe, having more a relaxed lifestyle in a sense of like not having to work a grind 9 to 5 job all the time. So sell them. If you're a man who wants something better for your family, I'd say, you know, enlist your spouse or your partner as a power player.
Today, we're thrilled to welcome Ginger Crystal Faith, a powerhouse real estate investor, broker, and wealth coach based in Livermore, California. With over 30 years in the industry, Ginger has flipped more than 57 homes, many featured on HGTV, and helped over 200 clients build wealth through savvy real estate strategies. As the founder of REI Fortune's Wealth Coach, she empowers beginners to millionaires with hands-on mentorship, teaching how to achieve double-digit returns and retire in just years using intelligent acquisitions. Get ready for game-changing insights from a true industry trailblazer. If you've ever wanted to dive or dabble in the world of real estate, Ginger Faith, my next guest, is absolutely the person to listen to. We just had a fantastic conversation about all things real estate, both diving into residential, which is pretty straightforward, commercial, which can be very interesting, and then private money lending, which is something that we all definitely want to aspire to. Most importantly, we dive into, Dad, how you and me can partner with our spouse, our wife, to really become a power couple, a power team, and move forward in the real estate sector to truly change our family's future and build a kingdom. This conversation is truly fantastic. Stay till the end for one of the best answers to the question that I asked with my diamond advice. Ginger Faith is somebody that's very special, very knowledgeable. I hope you enjoy it. Now join me as we just begin our discussion with Ginger Crystal Faith. Thanks. How did you, Ginger, kind of get started in the real estate industry? Kind of what's your story?
My story is in the 90s. I read a book. The first book I read was Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, who told me I could do anything. And the second book, not like I only read one book, I was kind of a bookworm, but was Nothing Down by Robert Allen. And he proposed that if you buy one piece of real estate, one just single family home, 3-2, per year for 10 years, and then start paying it off, you have your retirement all set. And basically he was right, but I was kind of ambitious, and so I decided to buy a 6-family so I would get a jump on things. And so started out right off in commercial immediately. And I found an old dilapidated Victorian house. It wasn't dilapidated, it just looked really shabby and scary. It kind of looked like the money pit. But it ended up being a really great asset. And that's how I got started, and I kind of got hooked. I put in a few $1,000 to put a new coat of paint on the front, and as they say, paint makes it what it ain't. And started getting a line of people who wanted to rent from me, and then kind of got hooked. So I took money out, bought another 9-family, and then a 6-family, and then did my first flip, and then became a mortgage broker later on. I left New England is where I started, and I didn't buy any more property in California until 2009, when the market crashed because everything was too expensive and I was a cheapskate. And the numbers had to work or I wouldn't go forward, and numbers never worked until 2009. But by that time I had a mortgage broker license, real estate broker license, and I was heavily involved in real estate, and I had quite a bit of opportunity that came up, as we all know, in 2009. It was a disaster turned into an opportunity that nobody could see at the time, but except for a few people, like the Big Short guy. Was it Michael?
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I got in. That's how I got involved.
So how many doors do you have in the California area now?
Well, that's a great question. I have liquidated 3/4 of my doors
Wow.
because right now I am transitioning over into commercial. I finally got that point where there's two ladders for me personally that I'm interested in at this point, being a money lender I have friends who are money lenders, and that's the life. That's the
Yeah.
top of the totem pole, right? So money lender and commercial. So right now I've liquidated almost all of my residential. I've got a couple of Airbnbs that are productive, and I like them because I like Airbnb. I like hospitality. I like design, and so that's kind of like it's something that I enjoy. But I didn't not enjoy the rentals. It was just that for the time invested, even though I had property managers in some of them, not all of them, it still took my brain power over here, and I need it to be focused on commercial right now. So I've got like one flip going on right now and some listings, which are easy. And I've got my Airbnbs, but my real focus is retail, uh, commercial, and industrial commercial. So,
Fascinating. Definitely want to dive into that because there's a lot of people that talk about commercial as being both very challenging and very lucrative. So before we go there, though, Ginger, if you can kind of give me your thoughts. As I said, we talk to dads quite a bit here on this channel. So what is kind of one of the key challenges that you see fathers are facing from a financial perspective today in this environment?
well, I'm not a father, so I can't speak to that. However, I am a primary breadwinner in my life, right, and have been for a long time. I do believe that with men, there's a lot of expectation that society puts on men. There's a lot of pressure that's put on men that I think that they're trying to negotiate. That's been my experience with my male. I have a lot of friends who are men because I'm in the real estate business, and that's from my conversations. There's a lot of pressure put on them,
Yeah.
and they really want to. I think that the good men out there really want to provide for their families and definitely for their children and give them a good life. But it's that working, inflation's real. We're all negotiating with that every day. And depending on where you live, taxes are very high. And just trying to provide a really strong, stable environment for the family. I'm imagining that that's probably a big pressure for men right now.
It really is interesting, right? Because those who are in a W-2 job, those who are working 9 to 5 to support their family, are feeling just like you said, the inflation. It's really starting to pile up, and we're going backwards. So the impetus, the opportunity that you talk about, and that we're going to continue to dive into, of where can I leverage my efforts, my bloods, my sweat, my tears, and my capital to really start to level up and support my family. So obviously you're in real estate. What's the case? There's many different ways to make money in this world. From your perspective, Ginger, for real estate in particular.
What's the opportunities now in real
Yeah.
estate?
Yeah. Why real estate? Why not other, investment vehicles?
Well, honestly, there's other investment vehicles that are just fine. Me personally, I've always done better with real estate. I've just done better with real estate. To me, it's simple, it's cut and dry. I can negotiate it. I tried I tried the stock market. I was a day trader. That was not my thing. It was too much sitting in front of a computer and devoid of the real world. So I love real estate because they're hard assets, they're real, they're valuable, physically valuable, and they're not going away anytime soon. And so, but it's an orientation, right? It's an orientation. I have friends who are great stock traders. They do fabulous, So, it's really one of the things I like to talk to people about and mention to my students is that find what it is that your natural genius is. Some people are natural geniuses with people. Some people are systems people. They can map out systems in their head really well. And other people are natural builders, and they like concrete. My contractor, who's right now as we speak, he's over there doing my flip for me. He is the happiest when he's with the guys, joking around, hammering things, fixing things. He is just so happy. I can tell by his voice when I call him, like, "Hey, how you doing, Mike?" And he's like, "All right, what are you doing? Paperwork?" "Yeah, I'm doing paperwork." And then last night I called him after there were 5 guys on the job. which I was really happy about. And I called him, "How you doing?" And he's like, singing a happy tune because he's, doing what he loves. So find out what you love and then find the investment vehicle that fits for you. But one thing I think is really, really critical is that people realize they need to realize that investing is a different skill set than making money. It's a completely different skill set. The worst investors are doctors, right? Because because they can make the money and it's hard work what they're doing. They're highly skilled, they're highly trained, they got this pile of money, and then they're like, what do I do with it, right? So people need to realize that investing is a different skill set. You need to put on your investor hat if you're going to do it. And if you're not, you just probably just stick it in the bank and let it accumulate until you get the time. Or if you find someone that you actually really do trust that can manage your money for you. And then, of course, start out really small and then dole it out and, or diversify. But I think that's really important for people to realize.
Your point, especially surrounding do what both you love, but what you have a capability for. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit sometimes, Ginger, in terms of I have been doing this one thing for the last 5-10 years, and I am better than 99.9% of the population at this one thing. So tell that story, teach that thing, do whatever you can, even on a small scale, and opportunities will present themselves as you're moving forward. So maybe you're not doing full scale investing into something, but you're utilizing your skills, which will lead to those different capabilities. It's really cool.
Yeah.
You alluded to it a little bit in terms of there's different types, different levels of real estate in particular. So I'd love to talk a little bit more in depth. Residential, where you started, commercial, where you're getting much more in depth into, obviously, and then money lending, the cream of the crop. Can you kind of give me your perspective on each of those, pros and cons, why we should be thinking about those in particular?
Yeah, I think residential is great for people to start off in if they're really uncomfortable and nervous about real estate. Go to the real estate meetups, be very careful, watch out for sharks because they're everywhere. But you can find, can you find a relatively inexpensive house that you can run the numbers on really carefully and maybe do a flip or maybe do a wholesale, which is safer. Wholesale is safer. But find something that is small that you can handle. Now, what you're doing is you're getting education on what it takes to manage all of the expenses, the outgo, the ingo, like all of the numbers, what things cost. Yesterday, I was in Home Depot for quite a few hours and I was just like, hey, what does this cost today? And because everything's changing, right? So you get familiar with the pricing. And then, okay, how can I save money by going on Facebook Marketplace here? And, where can I save? That's too expensive, right? So you have to be budgeting and thinking. And I think that a person can start there. And then when I was reflecting on it this morning with commercial, a lot of it has to do with your temperament. Same thing with day trading. Like it's not your knowledge or there's a tremendous learning curve, I'm realizing. It's also your temperament. And so you need to have emotional control because now if you're buying like a $500,000 house or $1 million house and you're renovating it and you're flipping it, that's one set of weight on you. If you're going to buy a $5 million shopping center, that's another level of weight. The taxes are going to be higher. The utilities are going to be higher. You've really got to read all of the leases and be very careful. Again, there's a lot of sharks in residential. There's even sharks with sharper teeth and smarter than you in commercial. And they'll run fancy numbers to make you think like you're getting a deal, but you may not be getting a deal. And so a lot of people get into commercial thinking, oh, I'm in the big league now. The smartest people in the room right now are hurting in commercial. They're hurting because what happened was during 2020, right around COVID, we had a situation where the interest rates were really low. Now in commercial, you don't get a 30-year fixed loan. You get a 5-year fixed loan or a 3-year fixed loan. And so now the rates have doubled, tripled, depending on where you were at. And so what's happening, is the loans are now being recast, and the banks are looking and like, oh, your your property was worth X 4 years ago, but now everything can look the same as far as your tenant mix, but now because rates are higher, your values are down, and so your ratios are off, and they have the right to call your note, or to say you need a cash call. So there's people with this huge portfolios who were really brilliant, who created this over the last 5-6+ years. There's a lot of pain out there. So I was recently touring Sacramento with one of the smartest brokers, like one of the top brokers in Sacramento. He's like kind of a kingpin, and he was showing me some properties. There's a couple properties. One of them was remarkable because it was stunningly beautiful. It's an office building. It's 40,000 square feet. And it was purchased for about $5.75 million. They put in about $13 million renovating this stunning piece of property, rooftop bar, great location, midtown. They're letting it go for 8.75 because of exactly what I just told you. Because now the bank is like, well, no, the rates are higher now, and you have to rent this for a higher rent than you can get today because of this differential. And so this was an opportunity zone fund. So a group of people got together, and now they're hurting. They're gonna lose that property. They're gonna take a bath, but there's no way around it. So this is happening all across the country right now because of what's happening in the last 5 years. So where to get involved? Well, that's why I say I'm learning commercial. I'm not jumping in right now. I'm blessed to be part of a phenomenal group, the J. Scott Shield Commercial Academy, for the last year and a half. People who are way beyond me, doing some great, great things. And I'm learning as much as I can, as quickly as I can, but I'm recognizing how formidable it is with right now where we could be in a transition with the rates. But at the same time, there's great opportunity where there's great challenges. Back in 2008, different conversation, but the opportunity came on the crest of the challenges. So luckily for me, I don't have any of that stuff going on.
Nice.
Just like last time, I was sitting on the sidelines until the opportunity came. And but these are things that are phenomenal opportunities if you can get in. And so we just bought a 30,000 square foot mixed use building right in the heart of Sacramento. You can throw a stone to the Capitol. Beautiful building, renovated, but the guy lost the property to the bank. We stepped in, and even at 40% occupancy, it's cash flowing neutral.
Wow.
So now we've got 60%. We're trying to lease up the rest of it right now, and that's going to be our play. So the money will be there. So those are the kind of deals that we're looking for at this point. But it's nice if it cash flows right up front, like that one going for $8.5 million. I'm bringing it to some of my guys, and they're like, we don't really want to hold it because it's a big money suck until it gets leased. So you need people with really strong beliefs in a particular economy and in the office sector and in that particular location, even at that discounted value. And that can just, write a check every month until it gets leased up. But if you can do that, then you're in good shape, so yeah. And in money lending, I do some of that, not enough. My goal is to do more. I wish I had seen that vision when I was younger. I always loved working, so it never even occurred to me to be a money lender. But I have a really dear friend who makes gobs of money as a money lender. That's all he does now. But he's paid his dues. He's done tons of flips. He's had multiple businesses, but now he volunteers his time to the local community for $7 an hour with tons of residual income, because he set himself up that way. So I'm like, oh, that's a good model. And so I have a few friends like that. And ultimately, that's the king of the hill, right? That's why the banks make all the money, because all they do is lend out. But if you're going to do that, you've got to be a really good underwriter. You've got to know what you're doing. You can't be writing checks for garbage. And that's the cool thing about having experience in one particular area. Like, for example, in real estate, once I get to the point where all I'm doing is a money lender, I'll know, okay, that's not a good deal. I don't want to invest in that. That's not a good location. You should know your investment. That's why the banks, when we get a loan for our home loan, they run us through they don't trust us at all.
Right.
Tax returns, blood sample, firstborn, pay stubs, call your employer. Did you call your employer the day before you closed? Did you quit before closing, and rightly so. And that's what you need to be. If you're going to be a money lender, you need to be a bank. You need to be that kind of an underwriter. And I wouldn't even, personally, I wouldn't even pawn that off to somebody else. There's a lot of things you can pawn off to people, but I wouldn't say that that's a good one. That's when you need to dig in and make sure your money is protected. And that's why I was saying that it's a whole different skill set to invest intelligently. And that's just in one aspect. That's just in real estate. There's, all sorts of ways to invest, but either way, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truly impressive. I like all three of those, especially on the money lending side. I've been dabbling a little bit in that. A colleague of mine, he's finishing up his house. Just kind of a simple note, $50,000. He's going to pay me back with 7% interest by the end of the summer. Wow. That's going to be easy. I mean, 7% by just helping out a friend and a colleague. Can you continue to grow on that? But as you said, as you get deeper into that game, you really got to be careful where you put the money on.
Yeah. You have to know the operator. They have to have a track record. You have to figure out how is your money securitized. I almost got involved with a guy who's very talented, very, very talented, builder, very sharp guy. And he said, hey, I'd like to do a deal together, yada, yada. And he sent me an unsecured promissory note for $100,000 investment. And I looked at it and I'm like, what's this crap? But I mean, maybe this works for somebody else, but this isn't going to work for me, and it probably does work for other people because he gets money. He gets a lot of money. I'm like, okay, let them be happy with their unsecured promissory note. Not interested. And then he was like, oh, we should do this with, your clients. And like, I'm going to let my clients get involved with unsecured. I wouldn't give it, if it was my own personal investment and I was pulling my client in, I wouldn't give them an unsecured note. But, people do that. And that's what I'm saying about be careful out there. But, people are innocent and these sharks are very charming and smart. And they're all, I'm not saying he was a shark. I don't know if he was or not because I didn't get involved. Right. but I have gotten involved with sharks, and they're charming and smart and they know what they're doing and they can talk a good game and you're going to be rich in 6 months and yay us and all of that stuff. Go team. And there you are with an unsecured promissory note. So, and then I saw a guy who he did secure your promissory note along with 20 others. And he would over leverage the property.
Yep.
While I was flipping it. And people would be none the wiser. They think, oh, I'm secured on this beautiful house here. And they didn't realize he was like scarfing up money from all sorts of other people as much as he can. And if you look at the title record, it's like, oh, it's all stacking of tons of
Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme with the property as collateral and as the bait, and they're very gutsy. So everything in life is opportunity and also potential danger, right? So real estate is like that, and that's what I'm saying. If you know how to make money, you got to know how to invest, especially in real estate. You got to know what you're doing, or truthfully. If you can truly trust somebody, then go for it. You know what I'm saying? If you're like your friend, you're like, okay, You know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. They have good, you can call someone and say, hey, did you do business with him? So and so forth. Check the title records. Do a background check. spend the $20 on whitepages.com, do a background check on anybody that you're going to give money to, so you know who they are, if you get an idea anyway, and just be safe out there, as they say. Be safe out there. It's still the wild west when it comes to investing a lot of times.
It just reinforces the reason we have this conversation right now, right? I mean, the experience that you've had over the years in all of these 3 different realms are easy mistakes that we can make, and now hopefully at least take a double take as we move forward.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit more tactical if we can, Ginger.
Okay.
I mean, obviously you're watching this right now and you're thinking, all right, I want to get into real estate, but I don't have any capital to put into the game. So if we break it up into basically 3 different tiers, right, Ginger? So if somebody wants to get into this game, let's just say residential, we'll keep it nice and straightforward, but they don't have any capital to invest, or they have in the second tier maybe $10,000, or in the third, we'll say it like $100,000. What can they do in each of those tiers to really at least just start getting their foot in the door, pun intended, so that they can at least start learning and potentially starting to get some of that income?
Okay. So I've done all of that. 0, 10, 100, more, so find out what you want to do. First of all, find out what you want to do. What do you want to do? Do you want to flip a house? Do you want to wholesale? Learn everything you can. Okay. Money truly is an exchange of energy, right? And so if you don't have any money, you've got time, you've got ambition, figure out what you want to do. And then I can give you an example. One thing I did recently, which was kind of fun. I didn't have any money that I wanted to invest in this, but I wanted to do this. It was more of a game and experiment. So I bought a piece of property and I wanted to Airbnb it. So I researched the heck out of everything. I was already an Airbnb superhost, so I knew how to do the Airbnb. So I knew something. So this is just an example, but just use the example and do your own thing with it, right? So I was like, okay, can I do this with no money out of pocket? Let's see. So I researched the heck out of the top areas in the country to buy an Airbnb. Then I realized out of the top 10, I had a property manager managing some of my property in the same area. So I was going to go to that same area, which made more sense because I went to Cleveland Heights, Ohio. I said, well, that's a good place. You can buy property fairly inexpensively. So I went out there and I was blown away by these properties. This is really cool. Well, how can I do this with no money down? I put on Facebook, hey, would anybody like to partner with me on my next Airbnb? So I get a private phone call from someone who said, hey, I saw your thing on Facebook. And I got like several people who were interested. So I'm like, hey, you put the down payment on, I'll find the property, we'll go in 50-50 JV. They're like, okay, cool. Now I have to get money to buy the property. Well, it just so happens I know somebody who is retired, who had a chunk of cash sitting in the bank and making X amount. But I'm like, hey, I could do a little bit more than that. I can kick it up. Let me do a little better. Hey, so I create a beautiful packet. I got the property in escrow, not having any of the money. So I get it in escrow, and then the lady says, yeah, I'm in. It's a great, so I had to be a salesperson, so why I liked the property. Well, then now I have to furnish it. Well, I happen to have a credit card with 0% interest for 18 months. They just sent it to me in the mail. It was lucky me. So I used it. I went onto Amazon and I did a beautiful job. I created this like lovely home. It was a stunning home, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, beautiful area, sweetest area ever. Right near the Cleveland Clinic. Well, not right near, 4 miles from the Cleveland Clinic, in a super safe area. So in case, as a fallback, I could do midterm rentals with the nurses there. So I wanted it to be really safe and wonderful. I turned down like eight property. I got in contract with 8 properties. And then when I went out there, I was like, oh, this is no good. This is no good. It looked better in pictures than, and then I'd drive down the street and there were like druggies and there was like weird people. And I'm like, oh, this place is creeping me out. So if anything creeped me out, I would just keep moving. This one was beautiful. So basically I got into it and it started cash flowing like right away. And then I had no money involved in it. So we kept it going for about a year, and then my 0% credit card was coming up. And then I talked to my down payment partners and they wanted to cash out because they had another project going on. So I went back to my original money lender and then she funded the whole thing. We wrapped it all up into one big bow and now she's getting more than she was getting at the bank. So she's happy. And I have a cash flowing property out of nothing, out of creativity and out of air. That was just one example. That's just one example. If you put your thinking cap on and you write down what you want to do, whatever it is you want to do in real estate. I want to make this amount of money. Whatever. I have a friend who wrote herself a universe gratitude check for $1 million and she put it on her desk. And every time she looked at it, she smiled and said, "Thank you so much for the $1 million check." And she dated it for a year out, but she was in commercial real estate. And then a year out, she got $1 million check, right? Almost to the day or to the day. I don't remember the story,
Wow.
but I thought that's so cool. I'm like, hey, can you send me that check? So now I have a check. I have a gratitude check now. So that's just an example. So that you could start with nothing. Now 10,000, you might, okay, I'll furnish the Airbnb with my 10,000 or I'll work with somebody else. And that's just an Airbnb. Now you can do that with anything. You just get partners. Okay, but you have to know what you're doing. Now, the other idea is, what if you don't know what you're doing? Then you help. You help somebody who does know what they're doing for free. And don't even think about it. Say, how can I help you? How can I help you for free? And just suck in everything that you can possibly learn from that person. I know quite a few people have done that, so, and with $100,000, call me. Actually, I know quite a few really strong investors, strong players. They've been in it for 15, 20 years. Solid. I just don't have enough money to invest in all the guys and now because I'm in the commercial academy with these people who are really strong players, that's where I would go first. I know, because I'm in the business, I know people. So then you say, okay, how did you do with so-and-so? How did you do with so-and-so? And then you see their thinking, you see their strategy, you see how they lay out. They protect people with their succession plans and all of that stuff. So, $100,000, but just pay attention and be careful also because REITs typically go broke.
Yeah.
Always go broke because of the model. People don't realize that. That's good for a while, but then they can go broke, like that, Opportunity Zone Fund I was telling you about. That was compromised. They had other investments, but I'm not involved with them. But they had other, but this it's going to be a big hit. So $13-14 million, something like that. They're going to be hit. That's real money. That's gone, and they got to liquidate. So, so just be careful, but and try to play with the right groups. I would say go to RIAs, real estate investment meetings, but also I have seen so many of those teachers over there. They're kind of a little bit like cowboys with people's money, and that's not good. I've seen people who have been hurt by that. So
Yeah, it's interesting when there's different levels in your psyche, right? When you're at that first level, like you were just talking about, which is such a cool story to get that Airbnb, scrapping for every penny, $5,000 feels like it's a godsend. Then when you get to the point where you've got $100,000 and you are subsisting in your day-to-day lifestyle, it can be so easy to toss that out somewhere and not even think about it.
exactly,
which is an honor, right? It's very cool to have that capability, but it's also such a huge responsibility because it's so easy to lose, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having that $100,000, I think a lot of the things you talked about.
You have to have the same attitude as if you have nothing.
Yeah, which is tough to do.
That's challenging. Exactly. This is all a mind game, right? Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
It's truly fascinating. Yeah, I'm curious I think we could probably have a separate conversation just on, all right, where are you at? And then how can we really invest that money? Cool. One of your primary focuses, Ginger, is women in the space of real estate and how to really do well and perform and be successful. So obviously, I have my wife, a lot of the gentlemen that are watching right now, their wives are incredibly smart, incredibly driven. Can you make the case for why women should be getting into this field even more than they already are?
This is a really interesting point. The most successful people I see as are oftentimes partners. So if you're focusing on with men, I would say invite your wife, your girlfriend into the conversation, invite her into the concept of being a power team, and invite her into a vision. Like, what is it that she would want that would compel her to go through the paces, right? So I'll give you an example of a power team. One of my dearest friends. It's a power team. The husband's clearly the driver. However, he would be dead without her in this arena. Absolutely dead. They were both comfortable W-2 employees. They made good money. They're raising their kids, homeschool, everything is fine. And then he just decides he wants to get heavy into commercial real estate. And he pulled her, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm comfortable. I'm happy." But he created a vision for her of what things could be beyond. And maybe that could be retiring her full-time job. Maybe that could be more vacations with the family, more flexibility in time. It won't happen right away. There's a learning curve, and there's a challenging curve. But now I have a lot of friends who have done extremely well, specifically in the commercial space, and they have so much latitude. Now they're what we call lifestyle builders, right? So there's some people who I work with who are in this commercial academy who are empire builders. That's not me. It's never going to be me. I am not an empire builder. Some of these mostly guys, one woman, empire builders. They just want huge, but many women are not empire builders, but women would be interested in maybe, having more a relaxed lifestyle in a sense of like not having to work a grind 9 to 5 job all the time. So sell it. If you're a man who wants something better for your family, I'd say, enlist your spouse or your partner as a power player. Because what happened with my friend, as I was telling you about it, and I know several power teams, men and women, husband, wives, but this particular one, because I'm close to them, they have opposing talents that are extraordinary, and they've dovetailed. And she and I have talked hours and hours, and basically she just said, "I have learned so much. I know what faith is, faith in myself, faith in the universe, because my W-2 employment, I didn't need faith. I know the check was coming in the mail. It's all set. This is challenging me, and it's making me grow, and I'm getting better and stronger every day." And she came in kicking and screaming in the beginning, because she was, what are we doing? Like, oh my God, they accepted her offer. What? No, I don't want them to, so she got, everything she was like nervous about, but now she's growing and she's formidable. She's grown so much. So, but now, they took a month off, went on a trip over abroad with their family, their children. They have so much, they still work hard, because they love it. They love learning and growing, and they're passionate. However, if anything happened in their life where they needed to take a break, they could do that because they've just gotten to that level of success. So I'd say, create a vision for your family and invite your partner into it. I think that's probably the best orientation I could give someone.
You marry your spouse for a reason, right? They complement you, and you're spending the rest of your life with them. So you should be able to take that leap. And I think that's the biggest leap of all, right? We're both comfortable. We're both in our W-2. Can we do something bigger and better that has risk? It's fraught. But if we buckle down and put our heads to it, it could be something really big.
Two heads are better than one, right? For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a book, Traction and Rocket Fuel, by the same author, and it's escaping me at the moment, but that's a wonderful example of, if you have a visionary, you need somebody who's the tactician. You need an integrator, is what they call it. So if you are a visionary and you see something better for your life and for your family, your partner might just be a great integrator. They might be somebody who can pull everything together while you're, getting the deals and, making things happen out there, seeing the big picture. A visionary without an integrator is a complete failure. because they have all these visions and then nothing, nobody to operate. But if you can get some, that's why they use the word rocket fuel. And I know entire teams who go to that training, which is exemplary, because they pull together and they're like, okay, you're the visionary. And oftentimes they don't see things the same. And that is a cause of stress and challenge until you understand that their different orientation and thinking is your benefit. Because if they thought like you, one of you would be unnecessary, right? Or redundant. So
where do you see the market, both real estate, residential, commercial, going in the rest of 2025 into next year?
I really am not a visionary. I'm not an economist. I'm an opportunist. I truly listen to people who are way more advanced than I am. I do think my own personal opinion, based on people before me and above me, opportunity and crisis. We're still, what I just told you about. If you look, the Business Journal. I subscribe to the Sacramento Business Journal, and I'm thinking of expanding that. You can go to the Los Angeles Business Journal. They'll give you like who's going bankrupt, who are the big players that are going bankrupt, what's going on, what's going on and why. So I think because of the inflation for sure, and the situation we have with the banking crisis, with commercial real estate, there's going to be a tremendous opportunity there. As far as residential, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's deflating at all. There's still a strong demand. I just listed a property the other day and got 20 offers.
Wow. Yeah.
I feel like no more offers, so I mean, still, right, even though the interest rates are 6-7%, there's a lot of cash on the sidelines, so I think I have no reason to think that the residential market's going to be going back to 08, 09. There's nothing indicating that. I thought maybe a couple of years ago that might happen, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So but in commercial, because of that recasting, and because of the office situation with the people being pulled out of the office and now being pushed back in, sometimes and then the government is, as I understand it, the government is now they don't want to be commercial property owners anymore, so they're starting to liquidate some of the big buildings. They might need maintenance and repairs. So there might be opportunity there for the right investors. Get some government, because governments are wasteful. We'll see how this current government is. I don't know, but they tend to just all right, they let things go. So there might be opportunity there as well.
We'll kind of land the plane here. I've got two, I think, of the most important questions for you. Before we get there, though, where, Ginger Faith, can people find you and learn more about what you're working on?
Ginger Crystal Faith. I'm all over the internet in some ways. Facebook, you message me. LinkedIn, I'm not on as often. Probably if you sent me a Facebook message, I'd probably get it. Or just look me up and get my number, text me, call me, send me an email. And then what am I working on right now? A flip, which is pretty cool. I haven't had a flip in a little while, so I'm excited about that. I always like the design aspect. And then, bossing guys around is always fun. And so that's doing well, but we're on the demo phase at this point. And then also we just got into contract with that property in Sacramento, and so keeping an eye on that, but while looking for another retail or industrial spot for some of our investors to pull together. That's my main focus right now.
You alluded to it a little bit while we've been talking about the commercial academy. We always say, don't try to learn these things on your own. There's so many different great communities and groups out there. Anything you wanted to say about them? I don't know if you want to plug them or not, but it seems like you've got some good resources that you're learning about.
I do like this group. I feel like it's a safe haven in this world of sharks with the Commercial Academy. So I'll tell you how I started. I met, the guy's name is Scott Shield, very successful guy. He's done a lot of stuff well in his life. And one of the things is he started this academy back in 2002, I think. And my girlfriend joined. I went to see him in 2010, but I was so overwhelmed with the crash and the crisis that I had so much
Getting
business
doors.
in
Yeah, you were busy. You were
residential.
busy making money.
Yeah, yeah. I just couldn't learn commercial. I didn't have the bandwidth at all at that time. So, but my girlfriend joined about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and she flipped a 56 unit apartment complex with their guidance and heavily. And she was consulting with me regularly, which was a really interesting thing. Made a ton of money. She cashed out with multiple seven figures and moved out of California to a more business friendly state, lower income tax, etc.
Yeah.
And then encouraged me to join. And I was like, you know what? And I was the one who told her at the Wealth Expo, oh yeah, you should go see Scott. He's great. You know, I'm like, what was it? I wasn't ready, I guess, right? So I didn't see him. So I joined a year and a half ago, and I love it. I feel like it's solid. The whole philosophy dovetails with my values. You know, they're big into family, into spiritual values, into the broader picture of life, because ultimately a lot of these people are really wealthy, and at the end of the day it's like, okay, 0, 0, 0, 0, what's the point, right?
Exactly.
It really gets down to that, right? It's like, okay, what's the point? Well, so then a lot of them are diving into their spiritual, lives as well, which is great, and they share information, and they want to protect each other. That's the number one reason I'm there. They want to teach you and then protect you. And as you've already seen from my spiel on this, there's a lot of sharks there. So I can literally come to one of them and say, hey, I saw this and that, and then the broker told me this and that, and then all of a sudden they show me something that, a guy worth $50 million will pick up my call and show me something that I didn't see in 2 minutes. Like, oh man, that would have cost me an arm and a leg. That would have, it's just amazing. So I definitely, J. Scott Shield Commercial Academy, I definitely recommend them. We have next month, Las Vegas, there's an introductory 3-day. So reach out to me if you want. I'll get you in on the preferred number. Oops, my battery's low. And I'll get you a discount if you want to go, and because I can as a member. So
cool. Yeah, I'll link some information to that down below. That's very interesting. I'll look into that myself. I like it. So just two last questions for you, Ginger. What's the best way for a dad to create generational wealth in 2025? We've talked about a lot of things, basically synopsize everything up that we've talked about.
I love that question. Generational wealth. That's a big focus in the Commercial Academy, right? So I am not an expert on this, but if you can get ground leases, this is what I'm just siphoning off from the Commercial Academy. So, ground leases, look into that. Much of San Francisco and like Rockefeller Plaza, they've been on ground leases for over 100 years.
Wow. So
Paying
somebody
the children,
somewhere is just
the Rockefellers knew that, right? So that's one way. I would say that's probably that's just something that I've kind of siphoned off, like I said, the Commercial Academy, because the ground will never leave. The ground will never, and of course work with an estate attorney, to make sure that your heirs do not blow it. Whatever you do, keep it tight. I say work with a really great estate attorney, and so that's my 2 cents on that, because I know not that much more than that.
Okay, I love that. I ask this question of everybody that joins me, and thank you again, Ginger, for joining me today. This has been such an insightful conversation. Do you have kiddos?
I don't. That's why I was saying about generational wealth. I have to figure this out. I was having a conversation with another friend. I have another friend who's, fairly well off with no kids. So I'm like, okay, which charity or friend or, child of a friend, so, yeah.
So let's do a hypothetical question then. If you were to have had kids or god kiddos or something like that, and you've taught them all these great lessons that you've developed and cultivated over your life, they're out of the house, they're moving on, they're doing all of these great things, and they forgot all the lessons, Ginger, that you've ever taught them, except for one piece of diamond advice, I call it. One piece of advice. What would be that one thing that you'd want them to take with them?
What a great question. I love it. Okay, just gonna give me a second. I don't want to give a flip answer to such a great question. Understand the power of compound interest in your life. That every day you invest, if you do your best, you are going to have compound interest. Your life is going to be phenomenal. If you waste your days turn into years, and then you will very quickly be loaded with regrets.
Ginger Crystal Faith, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.